I never imagined that wearing the exact dress my best friend told me to wear would be the moment my entire life imploded. But here I am, 26 years old, with a shattered reputation and a friendship that turned out to be a carefully constructed lie. Let me tell you how my childhood best friend orchestrated my social execution at her wedding, and how I discovered the true architect behind it all. Bella and I met when we were 5 years old. My family had just moved into a new neighborhood, and there she was, the girl next door, literally. We were the same age, and from the moment we met, we were inseparable. We grew up together, shared everything, became what people call thick as thieves. She was the sister I never had, the person who knew all my secrets, the friend I thought would be in my life forever. When we got older, our paths diverged slightly. I went away to college a couple of hours from home, while Bella stayed local. But distance didn't damage our friendship, at least I didn't think it did at the time. She'd visit me frequently, stay over in my dorm room, and we'd have the best times together. Those college visits are some of my favorite memories, back when I still believed our friendship was real. During my sophomore year, I met Barrett. He was 26 now, same as me, and back then he was just another guy in my social circle. We had mutual friends, ended up at the same parties, studied together occasionally. He was smart and attractive, and after a few study sessions, we hooked up a few times. It was casual fun, but there was never any real chemistry beyond the physical. We never talked about dating, never considered a relationship. After things fizzled out, we just remained friends, not even close friends really. We were in the same group text threads, saw each other at parties, but that was about it. There were no lingering feelings, no awkwardness, just two people who'd briefly hooked up and moved on. Then came my senior year. I threw a party and Bella came to visit. I introduced her to Barrett, thinking nothing of it. But for Bella, it was apparently love at first sight. After the party, she interrogated me about him, wanted to know everything. Who was he? Was he single? What was he like? And then, inevitably, she asked if there was any history between us. I was honest. I told her we'd hooked up a few times, but that it was completely casual, that there was absolutely nothing romantic between us, and that she had my full blessing to pursue him if she was interested. She seemed upset at first about the hookup history, but I reassured her there was nothing to worry about. Zero feelings on my end, zero feelings on his. Ancient history. She pursued him, and within a few months they were officially dating. Bella was over the moon, absolutely smitten. I was genuinely happy for her. Seeing her so happy made me happy. That's what friends do, right? They celebrate each other's joy. After I graduated, I accepted a job 6 hours away from home. It was a great opportunity, but it meant I was pretty far removed from everyone I'd known. Bella and Barrett ended up moving in together back in our hometown. I visited them frequently at first, made the effort to stay connected, but life got busy. Work was demanding, and eventually our visits dwindled to just seeing each other during the holidays once a year. Last Christmas, my family hosted a Christmas Eve party. Both our families were there. We'd been neighbors for so long that our families had become close too. During the party, Barrett got down on one knee and proposed to Bella. It was beautiful, heartfelt, and everyone was thrilled for them. I was thrilled for them. Bella had found her person, and I was so happy to see her so happy. That entire holiday break, Bella talked about nothing but wedding planning. We spent hours together brainstorming ideas, looking at Pinterest boards, discussing color schemes and venues. She mentioned several times that she wanted me as her maid of honor, and I was honored. Of course I would be her maid of honor. We'd been best friends for over 20 years. This was supposed to be one of the happiest times in both our lives. But then things started to get strange. Over the next few months, I kept waiting for the formal ask to be her maid of honor. It never came. Bella started becoming harder to reach. She'd miss my calls, take days to respond to texts, and when we did talk, conversations felt shorter, more distant. I told myself she was just busy with wedding planning, that I was being oversensitive. Then I received a save the date in the mail. Just a standard save the date, nothing indicating I was in the wedding party. I finally managed to get her on the phone and asked her directly, was I going to be in the wedding? Her response gut punched me. She said she'd thought it through and decided I shouldn't be in the wedding party at all. Her reason? I live too far away. She said coordinating bridal events would be too difficult with me 6 hours away, so she was making her cousin her maid of honor instead, a cousin she didn't even particularly like, as she'd told me numerous times over the years. I was devastated. I thought I was her closest friend. I'd known her since we were 5. I'd introduced her to her fiancé. I was friends with him too. And now I was being excluded because of distance? I tried to reason with her. I told her I could get time off work, that I'd buy plane tickets, that I'd do whatever was required to participate. I didn't think it would be as challenging as she was making it out to be. But she just shrugged it off, dismissed my concerns like they didn't matter. Then she changed the subject entirely. She asked if I was bringing someone to the wedding. I was confused by the question because I'd just gone through a bad breakup and she knew all about it. I told her that since I wasn't seeing anyone, I'd probably be attending solo. She insisted on keeping my +1 open until the last possible minute and encouraged me to try to find a date so I wouldn't be lonely. I thought it was a nice gesture at the time, though odd. I reassured her that with my family there and tons of mutual friends from college and our hometown, I'd be fine. The next few months passed with minimal contact from Bella. I probably could have reached out more, but I was still hurt about not being in the wedding party. I also saw on social media that she'd had an engagement party that she hadn't told me about or invited me to. That stung, but I didn't say anything. I figured maybe we were just growing apart. It happens, right? People change, friendships fade. It's painful, but it's life. Looking back now, I realize there were signs I missed. My parents would ask me strange questions like, "So Bella told me a little bit about what's going on, are you okay?" And I'd assume they were talking about my recent breakup, responding with things like, "I'm struggling a little but I'm getting through it. I'll be okay, thanks Mom." But they were actually asking about something completely different, something Bella had told them that I knew nothing about. We kept talking past each other, neither of us realizing we were having two different conversations. My parents are pretty low EQ and uncomfortable with emotions and drama, so they didn't pry too deeply. There were a few things my mom said that confused me, but I didn't seek clarity at the time. I wish I had. Maybe I would have discovered what was happening before it was too late. Then, 6 weeks before the wedding, Bella called me out of the blue. She told me that one of her bridesmaids had dropped out unexpectedly and asked if I could fill in. I wouldn't be attending any of the pre-wedding events since those were already booked, but I'd be in the actual wedding party. I was thrilled. Relieved. Maybe our friendship wasn't dying after all. Maybe this was her way of making amends. I accepted immediately. That's when she told me about the dress code. She said she was doing a reverse color palette for the bridal party. All the bridesmaids and groomsmen would be wearing white, while she and Barrett would be wearing black. It was unconventional, but that was very Bella. She'd always liked standing out, had always had unique tastes. It didn't seem that strange to me. She apologized for the late notice and asked if I could find a white dress in time. I told her I already had a white slip dress that would work perfectly. Right there on the call, I sent her a picture of it. She verbally approved it and gave it a thumbs-up reaction on our text thread. That thumbs-up would later become the only proof I had that I wasn't insane. The wedding was at noon and we were supposed to meet at the venue at 8 in the morning for hair and makeup. I left my parents' house early, arrived in sweats with my dress in a garment bag, and greeted Bella and the other bridesmaids. Everything seemed fine. We drank champagne, laughed, got our hair and makeup done. I was having fun, feeling included again, thinking maybe our friendship was getting back on track. I was boxed out of all the other wedding events except for the rehearsal the night before, which had lasted only about 30 minutes. At the rehearsal, I saw Barrett for the first time since last Christmas. I gave him a hug, congratulated him, expressed how excited he must be. We talked about my drive up and how some of our mutual friends' flights had been cancelled. It was entirely benign, normal. Bella was talking to somebody else and I greeted her a bit later. Everything seemed fine. I was never put on group texts about the wedding, which I thought was because of my last-minute involvement. The morning of the wedding, dresses were kept in garment bags on a rack. At one point, Bella's bridal gown was removed from the room to be steamed. I don't think it was back yet when everything went down, which was why she was still in a bathrobe. About 2 hours before the ceremony, Bella told everyone to put on their dresses so we could take some pre-wedding photos. My understanding was that she wanted photos of us helping her get dressed, which was why we were getting dressed first. Now I suspect the timing was intentional. I grabbed my bag, went into the bathroom, changed into my white slip dress, touched up my makeup and walked back into the main room. Every single bridesmaid was wearing blue. Royal blue, navy blue, various shades of blue but blue. I was the only one in white. My stomach dropped. The room spun. My mind raced back to our phone conversation. She had said white, right? I hadn't misheard her. I was absolutely certain she'd told me about the reverse color scheme. I had even Googled it to make sure I understood what she meant. I had sent her a picture of the dress. She had approved it. This was a setup. Bella was standing in the middle of the room in a bathrobe with this resigned look on her face, like she'd been expecting this. She turned to her cousin and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I told you she was going to do something like this." Her cousin immediately approached me, aggressive and hostile, asking what the hell I was wearing. I was so shocked I could barely speak. I mumbled that Bella had told me to wear white. Bella didn't even blink. She stared back at me and huffed out this cold laugh. She said something about how of course I would have to make her wedding day all about me. Then her cousin started screaming. She went off on me, calling me jealous, saying I was in love with Barrett, calling me completely unhinged. Other bridesmaids joined in, looking at me with disgust and anger. The room turned hostile in seconds. I froze. I was so completely spun around by how fast everything went from great to terrible that I couldn't find words to defend myself. My brain couldn't process what was happening. This was my best friend since childhood. How had we gone from doing each other's makeup and drinking champagne to this nightmare? Eventually, I stammered out that I had another dress at my parents' house and could go home and change. I just wanted to fix this, to make it stop, to make everyone stop looking at me like I was a monster. Bella's voice cut through the chaos. Cold, final, devastating. I think we both know this is the end of our friendship. I've given you too many chances. It's time for you to go. I started crying. I didn't understand what was happening, didn't know what she meant by too many chances, didn't know how to fix whatever was breaking. But I knew it was really, really bad. My legs finally started working. I fled. I left all my things at the venue, my makeup, my bag, everything, and just ran to my car. I drove home sobbing in that white dress, mascara running down my face, unable to comprehend what had just happened. About half an hour later, my phone exploded. Texts came flooding in from nearly everyone in my life. Friends, family, acquaintances, distant cousins, everyone. They were all telling me I was bitter, jealous, immature. Asking how I could do that to Bella. Calling me horrible names. Saying I needed to get over my obsession with Barrett. Telling me I was mentally unstable and needed help. Even my mother sent me a text saying how disappointed she was in me and that we'd talk when they got home. I did what any rational person would do in that situation. I started drinking. Heavily. At an extremely unhealthy pace. I needed to numb the pain, to stop my brain from trying to make sense of something that made no sense. By the time my parents got home from the wedding, I was pretty drunk, which made the conversation even more confusing and painful. My dad wouldn't even look at me. My mom kept talking, but we weren't connecting. We were talking past each other, not understanding each other at all. She outright didn't believe that I'd been told to wear white. She kept saying things that didn't make sense, referencing events I didn't remember, bringing up conversations that never happened. Finally, she said something like, "Because of everything else that happened," and I was like, "What are you talking about? What does that mean?" She looked at me like I was playing dumb. "Your ultimatum to Bella." I had no idea what she was talking about. Over the next few hours, the truth slowly, horrifyingly revealed itself. For months, maybe even longer, Bella had been systematically building a fiction about me to nearly everyone in my life. She'd been telling people I was mentally unstable and madly in love with Barrett. She'd concocted an elaborate web of outlandish lies and poisoned my family and friends against me, one story at a time. According to Bella's version of reality, my ex-boyfriend had dumped me because of my feelings for Barrett. That was a lie. I dumped him for cheating and abuse. She said I'd given her an ultimatum, that she had to choose between me and Barrett. That was a lie. I'd never said anything remotely like that. She said I'd told her I couldn't be in the wedding party because I couldn't support her marriage to Barrett. Another lie. She said I'd had a major meltdown before the engagement party, which is why I wasn't invited. Lie upon lie upon lie. In all these stories, Bella painted herself as the patient, long-suffering friend trying to deal with someone clearly going through a mental health crisis. She expressed understanding for my unrequited love for Barrett and empathized with how hard it must be for me to watch her marry the love of my life. She told people she'd made great efforts to sustain our friendship despite how complicated and difficult I was making everything. This had been going on for so long and she'd been so convincing that my own mother didn't believe me when I tried to defend myself. I was desperate. I grabbed my phone and shoved it at my mom, telling her to go through all my text messages with Bella. I asked her to show me any evidence at all, of ultimatums, meltdowns, declarations of love for Barrett, anything Bella had claimed happened. My mom scrolled through months of messages. Normal friendship conversations. Wedding planning. Me asking about bridesmaid duties. Nothing dramatic, nothing unstable, nothing remotely resembling what Bella had described. And then my mom saw it. The picture of the white dress I'd sent to Bella weeks earlier, with Bella's thumbs-up reaction right there on the screen. Proof that I hadn't just decided to wear white to steal attention. Proof that I'd asked for approval and received it. I had completely forgotten about that message in the chaos of everything. But there it was, undeniable evidence that I was telling the truth. The absence of any ultimatums or Barrett drama in our texts, combined with the proof of the approved dress, finally flipped my mom. She believed me. She was horrified that she'd bought into Bella's false narrative, that she'd doubted her own daughter, that she'd sent me that cruel text. She called my dad into the room and explained everything. My dad isn't the type of person you want to make angry. He's usually calm and level-headed, but when he gets mad, it's serious. We had to spend significant energy trying to calm him down just so he wouldn't walk next door and literally rip Bella's house from its foundation. Even in her newfound belief in me, my mom still said I was partly to blame. She said I should never have assumed I could wear white to someone's wedding without double-checking with the other bridesmaids about what they were wearing, that confirming details was part of my job as a member of the bridal party. Fine. I'll take blame for that. Maybe I should have been more cautious, more thorough. But it doesn't change the fundamental truth. I never meant to hurt Bella. I wore exactly what she told me to wear. And she had been setting me up for this messed up tragedy for months, possibly longer. The next day I tried to clear my name. I sent screenshots, actually a full screen recording of my text messages with Bella going back months, to multiple people. I showed all our conversations, proving there was no instability, no Barrett obsession, no ultimatums. And of course, the photo of the approved white dress with her thumbs up. I thought the evidence would speak for itself, that people would realize they'd been manipulated. But here's where my occupation worked against me. I'm a graphic designer. People immediately assumed I'd photoshopped the evidence. They actually believed I'd created fake screenshots rather than accepting that Bella had lied to them. The irony would be funny if it weren't destroying my life. Trust me, if I were going to Photoshop proof of my innocence, it would have been a hell of a lot more compelling than just a thumbs up on a text message. But people believe what they want to believe, and Bella had spent months priming them to think I was unhinged. 3 distinct camps emerged in the aftermath. My high school friends, most of them from the same religious community Bella and I grew up in, didn't take my side. They'd been extensively brainwashed by Bella's whisper campaign. None of them believed me except for one bridesmaid who'd already reached out after the wedding. That bridesmaid had told me something important. Bella had gotten COVID pretty badly at the beginning of the year, and ever since then she'd changed as a person, becoming cruel, self-absorbed, manipulative. She said the wedding events had been horrific, that Bella had been a monster to everyone, and she was planning on going no contact now that the wedding was over. My college friends who were closer to me had a completely different reaction. None of them had heard Bella's whisper campaign before the wedding, and they accepted my evidence immediately. Several of them even told me they'd never really liked Bella, that she'd shit-talked me behind my back for years. This was news to me, but also a relief because these were the relationships I most didn't want to lose. The college friends who were closer to Barrett, classic Didibros who are drama-averse, just didn't really care. They weren't hostile anymore after seeing the evidence, but they weren't offering support either. They just wanted to stay out of it entirely. I could live with that. Bella's family, though? I gave up on them entirely. When I went home for Christmas, I tried to go over to speak to Bella's parents, people who had been like second parents to me my entire life. They refused to even open the door. I left a letter in their mailbox explaining everything. It went unacknowledged. I need to explain something about my parents that I haven't mentioned yet, because it's important for understanding why they were so quick to believe Bella's lies about me. Last year I left the religion my parents raised me in. Bella is still heavily involved in that religious community, which gives her superior credibility in their eyes. From my parents' perspective, I was a sinner, an apostate, someone who had turned her back on biblical principles and was therefore capable of any act of evil. The broader religious community in our town believes the same thing about me. That's why my mom heard all those terrible things about me and didn't confront me. She thought they were probably true. Despite leaving the church, I tried to maintain a relationship with my parents. I'm an only child. They're my only family. But there was strain and distance between us. I didn't tell them a lot about my breakup, for instance, because the circumstances would have reinforced some of their worst beliefs about me. It's also why I hadn't been home much in the last year, and one of the reasons I assumed things were strained between Bella and me. I thought maybe she was judging me for leaving the church too. Ironically, the wedding disaster actually brought my parents and me closer. I think many of their strong opinions about me were more about how they felt my leaving the church would reflect on them in the community. But now that the community had rallied against me and the worst had happened in their eyes, they circled the wagons. They waged holy war in their church on my behalf. It weirdly cemented that my parents actually do care about me despite our differences. So in that small way, this awful event was a blessing. A lot of the awkwardness from last year faded, and it really felt like they'd chosen a side, and that side was me. We had a great holiday together. Things settled into a new normal after that. I focused on my life, my work, trying to move forward. I went home for the holidays and just hung out with my parents. Life was okay. Not great, but okay. I'd lost most of my social circle, but I still had my parents and my close college friends. I thought maybe this was just how things would be from now on. Then everything changed again. On January 1st, I signed into an older email account I hadn't used in a while. I needed to reset a password for something. In the spirit of New Year digital housekeeping, I started going through old messages, intending to close this account for good. That's when I saw an email from my ex-boyfriend with the subject line, "I win." I cannot describe the gut punch I felt when I saw that message. I froze up. My hands started shaking. My ex, let's call him Matthew, was someone I desperately wanted to forget, someone I'd worked so hard to escape from. Matthew had been the perfect boyfriend at first. Until he wasn't. After our first year of dating, he became extremely controlling. He wanted to control what I wore, what I ate, who I talked to, who I connected with, what I posted on social media. He was cunning and nuanced in the way he tore me down slowly over time, making me doubt myself, isolating me from friends and family. Then he slipped up. I found out he was cheating on me, and I woke up enough to realize I needed to get out. The breakup was a living nightmare. He refused to allow me to break up with him. We were living together, and he made leaving impossible. He installed tracking software on my phone. He bugged my car. He had people at my job reporting to him on my movements. I couldn't get away from him. I couldn't hide. He kept showing up everywhere. He even held my dog hostage to try to force me to come back. The police were useless because he was never physically violent and was careful not to write his threats down. There was nothing they could do, they said. No laws broken. Just a concerned ex-boyfriend who couldn't let go. I was in absolute hell for months, living under the constant terror that he would show up again. Eventually, I changed everything, my job, my phone number, my address, my email accounts. My social media profiles went private. I thought I'd blocked him everywhere. But this old email account, I'd forgotten about it. It was the one place I hadn't blocked him. With trembling hands, I opened the email. It was dated the day after Bella's wedding. Matthew wrote that he had become close with Bella after we broke up. He called himself the architect of my demise. He said he had fed Bella's paranoia about me and Barrett, that together they had planned my punishment. He said losing everyone important in my life was what I deserved for leaving him. And then, because he's a delusional psychopath, he said we should get back together. Unless I wanted more unfortunate things like this to keep happening to me. I fell apart. Completely fell apart. For days I could barely function. Everything made horrible, perfect sense now. The timing of when Bella started acting strange. The elaborate nature of the setup. The whisper campaign that was so calculated, so effective. It wasn't just Bella acting on her own insecurities. Matthew had been orchestrating the entire thing. My mom found me in pieces and pulled me back together. I told her everything about Matthew, details I'd never shared before because I was ashamed, because I thought my parents would judge me for getting into that relationship in the first place. But she just held me and told me we'd figure it out together. She connected me with a family friend who's an attorney. I'd tried to get a restraining order against Matthew during the stalking period, but couldn't afford a lawyer and was denied. Now, with the email evidence and an attorney who knew how to say things the right way, we filed again. The hearing was scheduled for a couple of weeks out. It would be on Zoom and Matthew would get a chance to be there. I was terrified to see him, even just on a screen. But I was also determined. I'm not so terrified that I won't tase the fuck out of you if you ever come near me again, Matthew, if you're reading this. Once I'd dealt with my own safety, I had another realization. I was now in possession of absolute proof that the wedding incident was a setup. I could blast it out everywhere, clear my name completely, show everyone that I'd been telling the truth all along. But I still had so much shame about being in an abusive relationship. The thought of everyone knowing what Matthew had done to me, how he'd controlled me, how I'd let it happen, I couldn't bring myself to share it publicly. So I made a different decision. I forwarded the email to Barrett with a brief explanation. He deserved to know the truth about what had happened, about who he'd married, about the web of lies he'd been caught in. Barrett didn't respond to the email. I have no idea what he thought when he read it, what conversations happened between him and Bella afterward. I'd never seen him the day of the wedding, I'd fled before the ceremony, so I had no idea what he'd been told, what he believed about me. But 2 nights after I sent that email, something happened that gave me my answer. Bella drunk drove her car to my parents' house. While attempting to park in their driveway, she ran over their mailbox. When my parents answered the door, she started screaming about how I'm a home-wrecking slut. In her drunken ramblings, my parents were able to figure out that Barrett had left her. Her parents were called over from next door to collect their drunk daughter. My dad said they seemed extremely embarrassed. I know a lot of people would be celebrating this, karma finally catching up with Bella, her perfect wedding leading to a destroyed marriage. But I'm not one of them. I can't be. Because here's what I understand now, Matthew is a monster. I know firsthand how charming and convincing he is. I know how he can make you doubt your own reality, how he can twist your insecurities into weapons against other people. Bella, much like I did, fell for his act. Her happiness has been destroyed by Matthew too. Yes, she made her own choices. Yes, she could have fact-checked his claims, could have talked to me directly, could have trusted our 20-year friendship instead of believing a man she barely knew. She's responsible for her actions. But I also know how Matthew operates. I know how he gets inside your head, how he makes you believe things that aren't true, how he isolates you from the people who might help you see clearly. Bella was his victim too, in a way. Just a different kind of victim than I was. That doesn't mean I'm going to reconcile with her. I'm not that naive, not that forgiving. My number one priority is my safety, and anybody who has ties to Matthew is somebody I need to stay far away from. Bella will have to find her own path back to sanity, her own way to heal from what Matthew did to both of us. But I can't celebrate her pain. I can't pump my fist in the air and call this justice. It's just more destruction, more casualties in Matthew's wake. I don't know what Bella's life looks like now. I don't know if Barrett came back or if their marriage is over for good. I don't know if she's figured out that Matthew manipulated her, if she feels remorse for what she did to me, if she's even capable of seeing the truth at this point. And honestly, I don't want to know. I need to focus on my own healing, my own safety, my own future. A management position opened up on my team in another country. It would be a promotion, a fresh start in a place where nobody knows about the white dress or the wedding or any of this mess. My boss thinks I should apply for it. It would mean being even further from my parents, which is hard now that we've finally gotten closer. But I think being in an entirely new country might help me cultivate a feeling of safety that I'm not sure I can get in this city anymore. Not with Matthew out there somewhere, not with the memory of what happened lurking around every corner. So that might be what's next for me. A new country, a new job, a completely fresh start where I'm just me, not the girl who wore white to her best friend's wedding, not the apostate who left the church, not Matthew's ex-girlfriend, not the victim of an elaborate revenge scheme. Just me. I'm tired. So incredibly tired. This whole ordeal has taken everything out of me, my energy, my trust in people, my sense of safety in the world. The restraining order hearing is coming up soon. I'm terrified, but I'm ready. I have evidence now. I have a lawyer. I have my parents supporting me. Matthew's reign of terror over my life is ending, one way or another. As for Bella, Barrett, and everyone else caught in this mess, I hope they find their way out of Matthew's web. I hope they realize what he did, how he manipulated all of us. I hope they heal from this. But I can't be part of that healing process. I have to save myself first. I probably won't sign into this account again. I needed to get this all out, to tell the complete story, to have it exist somewhere outside my own head. Thank you to everyone who supported me, who believed me, who offered advice and kindness when I was at my lowest. To anyone else who's been in an abusive relationship, who's been manipulated and controlled and made to doubt their own reality, you're not alone. You're not crazy. And you can get out. It won't be easy and the aftermath might be messier than you ever imagined, but you can survive it. And to Matthew, if you're reading this, you didn't win. You destroyed a lot of things, my friendship with Bella, my reputation, my sense of safety. But you didn't destroy me. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. And I'm going to build a life so far beyond your reach that you'll never touch me again.